July 1st was the 5th-year anniversary of me leaving a 6-figure corporate job that I spent 18 years building up so that I could cut my household income by 60% and start all over again at the age of 40. This video is about what I've learned since then and whether or not I have any regrets. Let me start by telling you why it is that I left that job. That job was a 24/7/365 tech management job that when I started it, I absolutely loved. I loved it. I loved putting on my pantsuit and walking into downtown Minneapolis, taking the light rail. I loved my laptop bag. I loved the people that I worked with. I loved the building that I was in, even though it was a bit dated. I just loved the whole mojo so much. And then along the way, I ended up having a really significant life change, actually two, that happened back to back. I lost my mom when I was 9 months pregnant with my first child. And I'm not gonna lie, something changed in me deeply and dramatically. And after that child came and I was dealing with the grief of having lost my mom, and I was dealing with the hormonal change of, childbirth and everything that goes with it. And then holding my beautiful 8-week-old child and having to hand them over to a daycare lady so that I could go in and be the company girl that I wanted to be. And here's the truth. I wanted to be that company girl, but I just wasn't anymore. I changed. I changed in the span of 3 months. So as a quick recap, 32, I lost my mom and had my daughter. 35, I finally realized I was never gonna go back to being the company girl. 40, we were positioned financially for me to walk away from my corporate gig, even though I was the primary income earner at that time. Now, it's 5 years after that. I am now 45 years old and we are thriving as a household. We are doing well. Now, let me start by telling you that we are richer. It's so funny to say that because never in a million years did I really think this would be the case, but we are literally richer. Our net worth when I left that corporate job was $1.4 million. Now, mind you, that's our total net worth. So that includes everything. That's the house, the things, the belongings that we have that are of value. That is the duplex that we own. That is our bank accounts. That is our retirement accounts. It's everything, right? We really do the full net worth calculation. And I remember at the time thinking, this is the most we're ever going to be worth until I figure out how to grow this business. It's got to grow. And I had a lot of pressure on myself. And I thought, if I don't get back to my 6-figure income straight away, that's going to go down. I just couldn't believe that it would go up unless I somehow replicated my corporate income straight away. Newsflash, I did not replicate my corporate income. I still haven't replicated it. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. But our net worth has grown to $2.2 million. And honestly, that's kind of a shock to me. I did not expect it to grow so much. The kicker is that the vast majority of that growth has been in two places. One has been in our property value, which after COVID, I think anybody can understand. But the second one has been in our retirement account. My retirement account, I think when I left Wells Fargo, was maybe at like $450,000 and it's at like $770,000 now. That included zero additional contributions from me. I have made zero contributions to that account. I do have a Roth account as well, and that one started at like $20,000 and now it's at like $40,000. And that one I have made a few contributions to, probably to the tune of about $9,000 or $10,000 over the course of the last 5 years. But that first retirement account contributes to a bulk of our net worth increasing, and I have made zero contributions to it. It is literally just dividend reinvestment. That is what it is. It is dividend reinvestment. And I might note that almost everything in there is an index fund. But it just shocks me that I made zero contributions and it increased so much over the last 5 years. We are literally richer now than we were 5 years ago, even though we took a 60% pay cut for the vast majority of that time. The second big thing that I want to talk about today is the state of my business. So when I left Wells Fargo, I was convinced that it was going to skyrocket. I gave a 2-month notice period and people were curious. They wanted to know more. And so many people said to me, I'm going to work with you. I can't wait. I'm so excited for you. This is going to be amazing. You're going to be able to help me too. And here's what I realized and what I learned. And this is the update that is a little bit more blasé, is that none of those people actually worked with me. Not a one. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that probably 20 or 30 people said that. So I really thought when I left that my business was going to skyrocket right away. As a matter of fact, my husband and I distinctly had a conversation that I was going to take the rest of the summer off and be solely with the kids and then start when they went back to school, because I wanted to make sure that I had the time with them ahead of my business skyrocketing, and none of that happened. That was one of the most disappointing experiences, is realizing that my business wasn't taking off. As a matter of fact, I got 2 clients in that time period where I thought I was going to be blowing up. I got 2 clients. And they weren't even people that I spoke to before I left my corporate job. They were people that found me through social media, one through LinkedIn and one through Facebook, and were strictly by chance. The thing that I realized, probably the most importantly though, is that after I left, I reached out to all of those people who said they wanted to work with me, but I only reached out to them once. And this is something that I learned later on. So for those of you who are considering leaving a corporate job to start your own business, the biggest mistake that I made early on was not realizing how important it is to maintain your network, to regularly check in with your network, and to pursue conversations with people. And I don't mean sales conversations, just maintain those connections, because it's through connections that ultimately all of your business will come to you, whether it's a connection through YouTube or whether it's a connection through your personal network. You have to be willing to say, this is what I'm doing, this is what my goals are, this is what I'm working on in my business, and hey, do you know anybody who would be interested in working with me? That conversation is so important. And I carried a lot of fear. I carried fear that people were going to look at me like I was a failure, and that leaving my corporate job was the biggest mistake that I could have possibly made, and that I should have never left to begin with. And because of that, I was really resistant to reaching back out to these people over and over again to maintain those connections, because I didn't want to admit that things were going slow and that I wasn't making sales and that things weren't looking as bright and shiny as I thought they were going to. And maybe that's the biggest lesson that I talk to a lot of people about when they come to me to start their own businesses, is some businesses, they just take off and they have tremendous success right off the bat. But for me, it's been a slow roll. And now that I'm 5 years in and I'm having these conversations with people, I realize that is actually the case for many, many business owners, especially those who are in the coaching and consulting spaces. It takes some time to catch momentum. And for me, I'm catching that momentum now, and I'm so excited to be there, but it's taken 5 years. And honestly, looking back at it, I think that's a blessing in disguise, because I think in order to grow high, you have to go deep first. The tallest skyscrapers have the deepest foundations. And in order to have something that really takes off and makes a lot of money and has a tremendous amount of value in the world, you have to have a really deep foundation. And the truth is, I didn't know what the heck I was doing in my business for at least the first 2 years. Then the next 2 years, I grappled with, am I doing the right thing? So I understood the things that could be done, but there were so many choices. I was having a hard time picking the things that mattered most. And now I'm at the place where there's abundance of clarity. I know exactly what my offers are. I know who they're for, and I know how I want to talk to people about them. That needed to happen. I needed to overcome the fear of what other people would think of me before I could get to the place where my business could grow up, or I would have probably just burnt out really quick and ended back up in some other job making a pittance compared to what I made before, because I had let too much span of time go between when I left and when I got another corporate gig. And then the third thing that I really want to highlight as a life update for us is that I am really walking out my priorities now. That is probably the greatest blessing that I've had in my life, is being able to really live the life that I want to live. What I mean by living my dream life and the life that I want most is that I'm living out my priorities. I didn't have the tool sets to communicate that well and set the right boundaries in my corporate job. Leaving Wells Fargo gave me the opportunity to actually put things in the right order. So now I start every morning with devotional time, just me and God for at least 5 minutes, but usually more like 25 to 30 minutes. Then I focus on my kids. They wake up, we go through our full morning routine. It's about an hour and a half long. And then depending on the weather, I prefer outdoor exercise. So depending on the weather, I am going to take a walk or a jog. And after that, I come in, I get myself ready, and I start my work day. And then when my kids come home from school at 3 o'clock, unless I have meetings, I'm done for the day. The thing I'm trying to highlight is, like, I have literally structured my day to align with my values. I am actually walking out my priorities. And that has been the most beautiful aspect of leaving that corporate job. And that to me is worth the sacrifice of not having the latest handbag and not having a big vacation every single year. Those are sacrifices I will willingly make so that I can be for my kids the mother that I have been called to be. So then now let's talk about regrets. What do I wish had been different? I've toyed with the idea a number of times if maybe I had pursued a different job where I had less responsibility, that maybe I could have been happy staying with corporate. I don't know the outcome of that. That would require a crystal ball, but that would be my first regret, is not learning how to better articulate what my boundaries were, and then holding a grudge against certain people in the company for putting me in bad spots when really my lack of communication of what was important to me was the ultimate culprit. So that's regret number one. My next regret is that I wish I had not contributed so much to traditional 401k. I wish instead that I had focused on the Roth 401k. I know that sounds crazy and it's counter to all of the advice that's given to people, but I wish I had left my traditional 401k contribution just to the company match, and that instead I had invested more in the Roth 401k, because you have access to those contributions if you need them. But also, I wish I had invested more in real estate or in small businesses that would be cash flowing. I look at how much more easy, I guess, our life would be if we had cash flowing assets. If we had more cash flowing assets, I wouldn't be so worried about my husband losing his job. I would feel like that's okay. We have money coming in from a whole variety of other places. Ultimately, if you are curious about this line of thinking, I would recommend you check out The Lifestyle Investor. It's a book that was recommended to me by one of my clients, and I have to tell you, it opened up my mind to a whole nother path to pursuing early retirement, not focusing so much on the market, but instead focusing on cash flowing assets. And then my last regret is that I wish I had gotten coaching sooner, one-on-one coaching. Like so many other decisions, you have those trade-offs. Do I want to spend on this or do I want to spend on that? And I focused on, getting a website built and getting business cards and buying shirts with my logo on it so that if I was going for a walk, somebody might see it and think to Google me. I spent my money on things that were so much less meaningful. And I wish I had invested in getting a coach, a good coach who could guide me through more meaningful decisions more quickly. There you have it, guys. Here we are 5 years later, and I feel blessed beyond measure. I am living the life that I most want to live, and I feel like it's on an upward trajectory. Please remember to subscribe. I am looking to grow this channel. If you've made it this long, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button, and I hope you guys give me a like as well. I love you guys. I will see you in the next video.